This is your daily scripture for March 10th. My name is Henry Loke. This is God's Feeding Station. It is great to be with you as we continue in the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 5. For every high priest chosen from among men is appointed to act on behalf of men in relation to God, to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can deal gently with the ignorant and wayward, since he himself is beset with weakness. But because of this, he is obligated to offer sacrifice for his own sins, just as he does for those of the people. And no one takes his honor for himself, but only when called by God, just as Aaron was. So also Christ did not exalt himself to be made a high priest, but was appointed by him, who said to him, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you." As he says also in another place, "You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek." In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to him who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverence. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation to all who obey him, being designated by God a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. About this we have much to say, and it is hard to explain, since you have become dull of hearing. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. But solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil. There are three qualifications of the priest in any generation, right? A priest was appointed on men's behalf to deal with the things concerning God. In Israel, the priest had one function: to offer sacrifice for the sins of the people. As we know, sin gets in the way of our relationship with God, puts up a barrier. The sacrifice was meant to restore that relationship and remove the barrier. The writer to the Hebrews says, "For if we sin deliberately after receiving the knowledge of truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins." So, the sins for which the sacrifice would atone were sins of ignorance. The deliberate sin was not atoned for in the sacrifice. So, the priest existed to open the way for the sinner back to God so long as we wanted to go back. The priest has to be one with men. He's got to go through man's experiences. He has to have sympathy for what we go through. Right? The earthly priest is one with men, that he is under the necessity of offering the sacrifice for his own sin before he offers it for the sins of others. And the third part is that no man appoints himself to the priesthood. He's appointed by God. Go back to Aaron. Aaron was appointed by God. And it was appointed that all the priests would come through Aaron's line. So Jesus didn't choose his task. It was chosen for him. I remember when he's baptized, God says, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you." Jesus has gone through the experiences of what we go through every day. He suffered the same things we suffer. Right? Tasted bitterness, had joyous occasions, suffered temptation. Everything that we've gone through, he's gone through. He talks about Jesus in Gethsemane when he's talking about Jesus' prayers, his tears and his cry. Right? That's the cry of a man who's looking at what's before him going, "Man, is there another way to do this?" But then he does what we should do and says, "God, not my will, but your will be done." All right, rabbis have a saying, there are three kinds of prayer, each loftier than the one that comes before it. Prayer, crying, and tears. Right? Prayer is made in silence, crying with raised voice, but the tears overcome everything. Jesus knew that. Shed tears of blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus learned from his experiences because he met them with reverence and submitted to God in everything that he did and suffered and went through. And that's how God speaks to us. God speaks to us through our life experiences. And we only hear his voice when we accept what comes to us. And we deal with it in the way the Bible tells us to deal with it. Right? We are to deal with it not with downcast countenance, not with why me, right? Not with self-pity, but with heads up, walking through it, asking God to show us what he's trying to teach us in the midst of it. He talks about the life experiences Jesus had while he was here and just how that plays into him being made perfect, submitting to God and being the example. So he was made perfect through his experiences because in those experiences, he submitted to the Father's will. So Jesus brings eternal salvation through all of it and experienced everything that we experience on a day-to-day basis. That's our high priest, right? A high priest in the order of Melchizedek, which is before the law, by the way, before the law of Moses was given. Another important point. So, again, that's who sits at the right hand of God interceding for us. We are pretty blessed, to say the least. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and Lord willing, we'll chat tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.